So I've talked a lot about XP farms on the channel here, and today we get to talk about a solo XP farm, and I'm going to give you the top 4 nightmare dungeons to run with this one, because if you're solo XP farming, you're going to want to run nightmare dungeons, but there are specific ones that you're going to want to target, okay? And the first one is actually going to be Onyx Hold, located just south of Cathedral, but with nightmare dungeons, you're just going to be able to instantly, go over there soon with the buffs. Now, these methods will all get better with time because they are going to be buffing nightmare dungeons. So although other videos that I've made, or potentially anyone that might be making videos on XP farms, some of those and most of them are going to get nerfed, this one will not. And Onyx Hold here, really, you're just looking for very high monster density or specific monster types that allow you to spawn more monsters. Intense spiders. Both those could be very, very good, but the first stage of this is going to be a slay all, and this is the main reason why I like this specific dungeon. As far as I've found, this is a really, really good amount of XP because of the high monster density, as you can see behind me. And the goal should always be to get 3 levels above you in terms of monster quality. If you could do a higher one, great. I do recommend that you finish these because you will get a lot stronger when you do finish these, because you can level up your glyphs as well. So if you're looking to solo farm, finishing off these nightmare dungeons is going to be a really, really nice option. Also, with the Onyx Hold here, you really want to make sure you're killing off all the monsters, and you don't want to backtrack at all because it will slow you down. But on to our second dungeon here. The next nightmare dungeon is going to be Maulwood, just south of Cathedral here, and this one really depends on your class. If you are someone like a rogue or a bard or even a werewolf druid, you can actually traverse the actual map quickly, but this one actually has a really, really nice density of monsters as well if you're able to traverse the open areas, because there are areas where there's lots of density, and then there's areas in which you have to travel a little bit to get to the next pack. So I guess you could say the overall dungeon itself isn't dense, but it usually pays off if you're able to traverse the dungeon quickly, and in this case it absolutely does, especially on the road, because I could just continuously kill monsters the entire time essentially. Now, for this one, again, you're going to want to finish it, so you do want to look for those bandit sentries, and you want to make sure that you're not missing any or running through and immediately going to the objective, because sometimes that will slow you down. Again, we're looking to get the most XP possible, so you kind of want to skate along the outer edges and actually kill off all the monsters, because that's mainly what gives you the most XP. On top of this one, again, we're still looking for a nightmare dungeon that is 3 levels above us, just like any of them was shown in this video. And if you want to, you can actually, if you're preferring a little bit more XP, just do the initial part of this dungeon, because that middle room actually doesn't give you XP for the slain monsters, so you just care about the initial part. But again, that's not sustainable because you're not going to be able to get any more nightmare sigils. On to our next one. Our third nightmare dungeon is going to be Crusader's Cathedral, located just south of the Imperial Library, or kind of northeast of Cool. I believe that's how you say that. This one's important to note that you don't just want to clear the first room. You do want to go past the first room and actually go into the kind of destroy event, and then actually clear the second room, because this first room is actually really, really small. So if you're looking for pure XP, then make sure you at least get to the last part of the second room and clear out that one. Although I generally, as I said earlier, recommend that you finish off every nightmare dungeon that you're doing, because it's not really going to be sustainable in order to just kind of reset the dungeons. And as far as I've seen, the resetting nightmare dungeons to have infinite sigils no longer works. Now, with this one, you're just going to want to look for the pristine key and then go ahead and open that room and enter to the next one. It's pretty simple. And what's nice about this one is typically this one has a little bit more higher quality monsters than necessarily the other dungeons, particularly the elites. I've noticed that there's usually a little bit higher of a density inside this dungeon compared to the other ones. It's also important to note that, again, in this area, I've noticed that you do not get XP for this kind of room situation, which is pretty annoying. So 30 seconds of no XP, which is why you absolutely want to go ahead and make sure that you're going to the second portion of the dungeon, because the first part is pretty small. And then if you're doing this one and you don't actually continue onwards, well, you're going to get basically no XP comparatively. This one's pretty good though, especially when you do reach that second part, because you do have to go around slaying the blasphemists, which end up being insanely good density towards elites, because the blasphemists themselves are elites, and then of course they oftentimes have packs with them, as you can see here. So overall, pretty good one. Let's jump to our fourth one. And lastly, everyone, my personal favorite, Blind Burrows. Now, this is the one I've certainly ran the most, but of course, the reason I offer 4 in this video is because it's oftentimes not the case where you're going to be able to repeat the exact same nightmare dungeon over and over and over again. And so, well, despite this being my absolute favorite and the one I'd recommend to you all, you still probably will have to run one of the other ones. But this one's so good for a few reasons. One, the infested villagers themselves are elites. Therefore, if you go around and killing them, you're going to get a good chunk of XP. But also the spiders kind of like have a spider host. I guess that's literally what they're called, right? And then they will explode into smaller spiders, which also tend to give XP. And that means that the XP on this dungeon is pretty insane. Once again, you still want to get those 3 levels higher, but overall, this is certainly going to be my favorite dungeon. And this one, yes, you can absolutely just clear the first part. And in fact, if you're in a group, then that is even better. But that's only if you're able to go ahead and sustain that income for nightmare sigils, okay? So you do want to have those nightmare sigils. And once again, before I end the video, you can do these in a group, but unfortunately the group play won't actually make it that much better. And in fact, in a situation where you're running a nightmare dungeon, oftentimes the level scaling will kind of not exist, or it won't exist at all, because they have set levels. So unless you all are kind of the same level, with the same power level build, you're kind of going to struggle oftentimes as a group farming. So in this situation, so oftentimes why I don't recommend nightmare dungeons for group farming, and well, this is why it's a solo method. It's really good and something that I will continue to do, especially when they buff it even further. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all for the next one.